should you do stiffness hops to jump higher off of 1 and 2 feet? You're going to find out in today's episode. My name is John Evans. I am the lead performance director here at THPstrength and also the co-owner. This is the highest jumper in the world, Isaiah Rivera.
I am the director of performance.
I made a potato for myself. Not really. I mean, it's true.
I'm the head of athlete success.
You're the head of athlete success. I love it. And if you guys are interested in getting coached by us, go to THPstrength.com and sign up to jump higher today.
Use the code THP for 10% off your first month.
Anyways, getting into this.
What's the stiffness hop, by the way?
Yeah, because you were like, is that the one where you jump with?
Tell
the people what you said.
It.
You don't have to.
I'm not going to say it. There's women that watch
Yeah,
this.
you're right. You're
or
right.
1%.
Right. Okay. So basically, when you are doing a plyo, it's a stress shortening cycle. Stiffness hops are the most intense continuum of that, and it's basically where you just pogo off the ground. You have very minimal knee bend. You're supposed to have minimal ankle dorsiflexion to plantar flexion. You're basically just a human pogo stick. That's probably the best way to explain it. There are different types of plyos. You could have like a long ground contact time plyometric. You could have a medium, ground contact time plyo, or a short ground contact time plyo, and each of them will have different responses. We're going to talk specifically about the short ground contact time plyos because they are the most intense. They have the greatest similarity to 1 foot jumping and 2 foot jumping the block foot. They're very similar to sprinting, and they rev up the nervous system, recruit a lot of type 2 fibers, stress the tendon a shit ton, both the Achilles and the patella, and a lot of people feel like they're super effective. So I'm going to ask you this. Do you feel like stiffness hops or their variants, whether it's alternating prancing, tuck jumps, just anything where you're on the ground as short as possible, I don't care what you do in the air, but really just on the ground as fast as possible, on and off, under 200 milliseconds or around 200 milliseconds?
Does it help?
Does it help? Do you like them?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to say
well,
that.
I think it's like how I mentioned yesterday. I think it's one of those things. If I never would have done them, I'd have a 50 or a 49.
Okay. Fair.
But I do.
I didn't expect you to say that, actually.
Yeah, no, I like them. I like them a lot. I've become more of a fan of plyos. I was not a fan of plyos, I would say, in the first 2 years since 2019 of doing.
2019. Is that when we started doing hard training?
Yeah, post-load management. But I have become more of a fan of them. Basically, the year leading.
Why weren't you a fan of them?
I just felt like that was time spent I could have used dunking, to be honest. Anytime I was ever doing plyos, I was like, this feels like such a waste of time. I would rather be dunking right now.
Do you feel like that bias came from the Jordan Kilgannon post where he said dunk every day, dunk all the time?
No, it came from just liking dunking, to be honest. Because I was so hurt at that time, and it felt like any elastic contact was draining my tendon battery.
Yeah, that's fair.
And in my head, I was just like, why do I want to drain my battery on this when I could do it on the thing I really like doing?
Because I would try to program them. Also, I'm palpating the bone, not the tendon. I was really interested on why my patella bone is protruding here. Yours is not. Yours is only down here. Mine protrudes here at the distal portion.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know why.
You freak.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing. Might be the angle. I think now I'm protruding.
I'm just palpating it and feeling it. Maybe yours does. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mine definitely does. Would make sense. Anyways, we got distracted. That was an ADHD moment right there. We're both off coffee today. So you felt like it was not helpful to you because you ended up more hurt and you couldn't jump at all if you were doing it.
Yeah. If I was gonna end up hurt anyways, I'd rather.
You'd rather get hurt dunking. Okay.
Yeah.
So what changed?
I feel like I started. You know what it was is when I started focusing more on my actual vertical jump.
That's whenever you started liking them?
You got to think, before, I was essentially a pro dunker. That was my main source of income. I had to win dunk contests. I had to do shows. I had to be better than other dunkers. And getting good at the skill of dunking was really important for that.
I feel like I'm so used to you always being good at dunking that it was like...
Yeah. And a huge focus for me was also hitting new dunks.
Oh, yeah.
At that time.
That's super weird to think about.
It's more like dunk skill was like 1A and jumping higher was 1B, and now it's flip flop. Jumping higher is 1, dunk skill and all that is 2.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So not only is it not on the same level,
Yeah, it definitely
and less,
felt.
it's down a priority.
Yeah.
And when, I like the noise you made there. But
Yeah.
you feel like now they actually are more productive for you in terms of jumping,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not asking about plyos, though. I'm asking specifically about
Stiffness
stiffness hops.
Yeah. So what's really interesting is when I jump off vert. I mean, I've always described it as that little like
Pogo sticky.
eight squat. Like I load up my Achilles a lot, and when I do an approach jump, it feels like I'm just running into that. Like I'm like max speed running into like a.
So it's the
like
same
Justin
sensation.
Darlington?
Is it the same sensation for
Yeah.
both?
Because the speed of it, like the ground contact time in the jump, like it feels really similarly.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And stiffness hops, it feels.
So it feels like a depth jump when you jump off 2 feet.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but the reason I think I get so low, because you got to think when I do low effort jumps, I'm not that low. Like when
Not
I'm
even
doing
close.
warm up jumps, and I think as I run faster, I just like it
Pushes
forces
you.
me into a deeper knee bend. But I'm going for that feeling, that like quick like load up my Achilles. Like it literally feels like I'm loading the hell out of my Achilles and obviously my patellar tendon.
I am fascinated by your sensations you have jumping 50 points. This is like more interesting than the topic itself, because I have never felt that ever in my entire life jumping off 2 feet.
And well, this is also specifically when I'm feeling good as well. Like
What
the
if you
better
feel
I'm
bad?
feeling,
Does it
feels
feel
very,
like that?
It's like muscular. When I feel bad, it feels more like.
So is it like a bad depth jump, like where you like load more into, like you are on the ground
like,
longer?
It's literally just wiry. Like I feel wired, electric, fast.
You know when the last time I had that sensation?
When?
When I was like 15.
Really?
I haven't had that in years.
Yeah.
Years
It
and
is
years
rare
and
for me
years.
though. I will say that.
Is it gonna get less rare?
It probably will. I'm assuming it will.
But you'll be jumping higher?
Maybe.
That's
Yeah.
actually crazy.
Yeah,
Wow, that is very insightful. So you feel like stiffness hops specifically like give you that
Yeah, but
build
it has
that?
to be intense. Low effort ones, no.
So repeat ones where it's on
Like
your own
any
accord.
repeat type jump where I'm jumping hard.
But
feels really.
but what about the ones like we did plyos earlier this year?
Yeah.
You did the bleacher ones. You were under the hoop.
Bleacher, that felt really specific. Yeah, that felt good.
But those were longer ground contact time plyos.
Yeah. The split jump ones, that one I really liked.
I'm talking like the fastest you can be on and off the ground depth jumps.
Those ones I don't like as much.
That's what I'm referring
Yeah.
to with stiffness hops, though.
Yeah, that.
Like you like rocket jumps and you like that sort of shit, right? Like repeat jumps as high as you can.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a squirrel.
It wasn't the lizard today. So yeah, but that would be considered medium tier to me. Those would be like you're on the ground for 250 plus milliseconds probably.
Yeah.
That makes sense why it would feel specific
Yeah.
for you.
The other ones, I don't know if they. I think for 1 foot.
That's the
it would
thing,
feel-
like
and what I will say, I think the stiffness hops is like it prepares me for the more intense ones.
what's crazy is stiffness hops are supposed to be more intense. They're supposed to be the most intense.
But your knee isn't that. It's probably more intense on like your Achilles and stuff. It's almost like you know how sprinting is technically super intense,
Yeah.
but you can do it early in like the patellar tendon rehab. Like it doesn't feel that crazy.
I would say that is the end of my continuum for my patella is intense stiffness hops.
That's really interesting.
Like I cannot do them if my knee is sore.
Like right now,
Like,
for
no
reference,
way.
So I'm building into max approach jumps or whatever. I could probably right now do a couple isos and then go like max stiffness hop.
I mean,
and wouldn't
objectively,
feel that much.
what?
Yeah, but if I were to like get into a,
We've never tested your RSI ever. So
we did once.
Really?
COVID.
Oh, yeah,
I
what
was
did you
there
get?
for it. I don't remember. It's
is
probably
it 3 something?
I have the video. I could.
I think it was around the same as mine. But
Yeah.
you favored, it was the same as mine, but it was wildly different how you got there.
Yeah.
Your jump heights were like your ground contact time was like 280 milliseconds, but
Yeah.
your jump heights were like 80 centimeters or some shit.
I do think I have a higher RSI now though.
You think
from
so?
back then.
I mean, most of it's learning the test, but that is a stiffness hop. The RSI test is a stiffness hop. That is
Yeah.
what it is. So, do you think that the RSI test, maybe let me reword it like that, is
Yeah.
beneficial for your vertical
Oh,
as a training stimulus?
it feels general.
That's interesting. That's insightful.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I do kind of feel the same way. I think as we, get further along in our coaching progression, both of us kind of realize like there is a lot to be said for the sensations you get during a given exercise, like whether it's a deep squat or a RDL or a calf raise.
Yeah.
And I think for you specifically, you have a really good sense of whether something's actually specific or not. Whether
Yeah.
it's, okay, it feels like this. All right, why does that feel or why does that not feel specific? I think it doesn't feel specific for you because you're not in the same knee joint angles, but your block foot,
Yeah.
does it feel like the block foot?
Yeah, it's very similar to the block foot.
Do you think it's helpful for that?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know how much of a role. Like, I don't know how much improving the elasticity of your block foot makes you jump higher, though. Something is.
I mean, I
feel
would
like the
assume a
limiter-
lot.
I feel like the limiter is the plant leg, like how long that one can stay on the ground. It's like anything where if I'm like from here to here, like that joint angle, and max intent feels super specific in a plyo. Anything where I'm like here,
See, that's
not.
crazy.
Not
Because that, well, I mean, it makes sense, but that is the exact opposite of my sensation.
Yeah.
Anything from there
it
to
makes
there,
sense 'cause you're-
yeah, it
you're
does.
further
Well,
back.
actually, what's interesting is like it feels. What plyo feels like 1 foot takeoffs, like good 1 foot takeoffs? When I bound really well, like super well, not sprinting into it, but like a jog into it for height and distance, like a balance between height and distance, those feel really specific. Stiffness hops feel very specific on my patella when I allow more knee flexion.
Yeah.
So like it's like I'm going for max height every time instead of ground contact time. Those feel really specific, but they hurt my knee like a bitch. Trying to think of what else. Those two probably feel the most specific, I would say.
You know what's really interesting is
Hopping does not feel specific at all, like
Like-
at all.
when it comes to like training and jump performance.
What's crazy though, real quick, in terms of kinetics and kinematics, is they are very specific.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But
What were you saying?
what's really interesting is like there's almost like there's a level of fitness that I can achieve through, like, for example, I could sprint a lot and then lift heavy, not jump at all, and then go out and test, like high 40s. And then, but to eke out that, like, and I feel like there's a lot of different things. Like, I could probably, the stuff I'm doing now, I could probably lift a lot.
Oh,
and
yeah,
have
yeah,
a session twice a week and still get 95% of my best. But it's like that last little percentage where like the training has to be perfect.
Well, I think too, it's all relative to where you're at, right? Like
Yeah.
now that would work for 48, but when you had a 46,
That wouldn't get
that
you
wouldn't get you to 48.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so now it's like once you've, and that's the product of the cluster moving up, right?
Yeah.
So like as your cluster has moved up and now your outlier is like 51 probably, I would say, like you basically almost touched 51 and a half, right? At dunk camp. That would have been 51 and a half or 52?
No, it was 51 on the
It
dot.
was 51 on the dot. But you were like behind it and
Yeah.
basically right there. I think you're going to get it at some point in the near future. I don't know when. But your cluster has moved up. Now 48 is 3 inches lower, whereas before when you had a 46, that was 2 inches higher than you've ever done.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, when you had a 46, a 42, you could fucking do anything. You're going to have a 42. So
Yeah.
you basically create a better product, a better, we'll call it organism, like as you go. And I feel like that can be misleading because if you were to say, oh, I could have a 48 doing all this random shit, right? People would be like, oh, I can get a 48 by doing all this random shit.
Yeah.
No, you can jump 3 inches lower than your best
It's like when people.
if you do all this shit.
It's like when I talk about my progress, and I was like, I went from a 24 to 36. I just jumped every day. So, and everybody always asks me. I get DMs, and they're like, "Hey, what were you doing when you first started? Like, when you first started, blah blah blah, like that type of
Yeah.
question." But it's the wrong question. I could have done anything and jumped
Probably,
consistently
yeah, and you would have
improved
jumped,
pretty
yeah,
quickly.
you would have gotten a lot better
But
regardless.
The real question to ask is, the guy who's been training for 10 years and got better and they're elite,
what did they do?
really-
No,
yeah.
exactly. What did the guy with? And I always ask myself that is like I don't give a shit about what the outliers did. I care about the guy that had way less genetics than you, way less genetic potential, and is jumping almost as high as you or higher than you.
Yeah.
Like that's where that's what I'm fascinated by. You know?
I'm specifically, it's like progress. Like if somebody improves,
Yeah.
like for example, let's say Kilgannon goes out and tests 50. I want to ask him and have a conversation. Hey, what did you do?
Yeah,
if
what did
Jay
you
Clark
do?
goes
That's like Finn.
and improves. Yeah,
Finn
or
Addy.
like, you know, Mason Baker's jumping high as hell, improving.
Yeah, like
and
crazy.
From mid 40s to higher, and it's like, all right, what are you doing? Like that's the stuff I'm really interested in. Anybody can take a 15-year-old that hasn't trained, go have them dunk every day, they'll improve. But it's like there's better training out there.
Yeah, what's going to make you continue to progress, keep
Yeah.
you healthy and progress? Like there's a lot of elements to it, which
Also-
that's a whole that's a
Yeah.
rabbit hole we could go down for a
Also,
while.
side point, I was in an argument with Chase Kinkus about this.
Oh, when?
It was this was like a month ago, but it was about volleyball, and then I was making I forgot what I said, but I was just like, play less volleyball was essentially the root of the argument. If you want to jump higher, there's sacrifices. Do you want to get better at volleyball, or do you want to jump higher for volleyball? Related, but
Yeah.
that was the argument I was making. And then Chase was like, not everybody, most, he basically said most people aren't trying to reach their genetic potential. They're trying to jump higher for their sport. But this is how I honestly feel about it. Is fuck that. It's like, yeah, we can make you better if you're playing a sport, but who I really like coaching,
Are the guys that want to reach their genetic
they're
potential?
like, I want to get someone to 100%.
Do you know who the best athletes we coach are? The guys that converted from track to dunking.
Yeah.
Because they understand, and it doesn't happen a lot because they want to do track, but they understand like this is the level of training that it takes.
Yep.
I know what it takes to get a tenth faster in the 100.
Yep.
So I know what it takes to get an inch better in my vertical leap. I know what it takes to get 2 inches
And there's
better.
no freaking ball in track.
Yeah,
that
distracting you.
Tempts you to go play every day.
It's not like you're like, I want to foot race all my friends for funsies. But getting back to the topic of plyos, because we've now diverted kind of heavily away from it. Do you feel like stiffness hops for yourself now? When and how would you integrate them? RSI.
Yeah, I would put him in somewhere in the middle of a macro cycle to get me ready for more specific plyos at the end of the macro cycle. That's probably when I would do them, and I would do it at like low volumes.
I just don't even really want to integrate them. I feel like it's like, yeah, you could do it during specific prep, but for me, it's.
But there's still the argument that it would take away from.
That's what I'm saying. It takes away from so much other stuff.
The battery drains it a little.
I'd rather do other things. I'd rather do depth jumps that are specific for you.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do a plyo, I'd rather do that than doing stiffness hops. That's kind of how I feel about it. But and then for 1 foot jumping, I feel like I'd put it in specific prep. So like 2 months out from when I want to jump high, same place I'd put, balance for height and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people think you put that at the end of the progression, like in season, because it's like, oh, you're in season. That's the stuff that makes you good really fast. But it doesn't. It actually makes you worse in the short term, in the acute, and it makes you hurt oftentimes. So you have to, especially if you're an output monster, like you've done them before and you're good at them, because the better you are at plyos, the better they work, basically, right?
Yeah.
Well, the more intense they are, I guess, is a better way of saying it, because they could work really effectively early on. So I would put them later on in the continuum, but not too close to competition because they'd take away. I do think that plyos work, but I don't think they're as effective. Specifically, stiffness hops work, but I don't think they're as effective as what people make them out to be. Like, for me, it's more about accumulating a lot of training across a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Sprinting, lifting, power clean pulls, different types of squats, different types of leg extension machines, playing with velocity on those exercises, playing with tempo, playing with maximal isometric pushes, with super maximal negatives, with you could superset stuff. Like, it's more about that and finding a way to integrate that where you have a change in fatigue and then a change in adaptation, and then you super compensate. I think that's really the beauty of it. I don't think that there's anything inherently special about that exercise. They are very specific on paper, and so you should do them as a 1 foot jumper. I think that it's a no-brainer. As a 2 foot jumper, again, there's other things I'd rather do. So that's kind of my stance on it. Whether it's split, tuck jumps, I don't give a shit. Anytime you're on the ground and off the ground as fast as you can, you know, at max intensity, which is always how I was taught to do plyos, you're doing basically a stiffness hop. You know, that's how I kind of view it. And I know a lot of high jumpers and stuff do a lot of them, but I would get hurt if I did that. I mean, maybe, I don't know. High jumpers are weird. Long jumpers are weird. Dude, these flies are everywhere. We gotta shut it down. We gotta shut it down. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Go to THPstrength.com if you're looking to jump higher and get coached by both of us. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Dude, these flies are fucking nuts.